Hello and welcome to Acoustic Review. My name is Ben Morgan Brown and today I'm looking at the THR30V2A Wireless Amplifier from Yamaha. The THR30V2A is a 30-watt desktop-style stereo amplifier with two 3.5-inch full-range speakers. The amp runs on an included power supply, which also charges the built-in battery, which has an estimated life of 5 hours, depending on use. The guitar input is compatible with the Line 6 G10T wireless transmitter, which is sold separately, and controls on the guitar channel include a 3-band EQ, a stereo width selector, effects for chorus and delay, and reverb. There are also a tone select and tone blend, which allow you to choose from 4 different digital mic models and blend them in with your pickup sound. A combination XLR and jack input allows you to plug a microphone or second instrument into its own channel with volume and reverb, and the amp also has Bluetooth connectivity for music playback, USB connectivity for use as an audio interface, stereo lineouts for connecting to a PA or external speakers, and an Android and iOS app is available for remote control and further editing of settings. The THR30IIA Wireless has an RRP of £570. And for the purpose of this review, I'm using a Yamaha A1R with its built-in SRT pickup. So let's have another listen to the amp now, and then please join me afterwards for my thoughts.
We're living in a dream world, he said. This talk of being an artist, but it's all in your head. I wondered what it was you meant. Were you saying my dreams were a waste of time, that I should give up on them?
The term desktop amplifier is a new one for me, but getting the THR30 out of the box, it was immediately clear what Yamaha mean by that description. The amp is compact with a low profile and somewhat reminiscent of a soundbar speaker system. It certainly wouldn't look out of place in a home office setup or next to your other lifestyle technology items in your living room. The amp feels well put together with a good handle, and all the knobs and buttons feel solid too. The top panel is a bit busy. There's a lot going on with multiple ins and outs, user memory buttons, Bluetooth, tuner tap tempo, and 11 different controls, but everything made sense once I'd taken it all in. Plugging in and leaving all settings flat, the amp provided a neutral tone. The top end is very clear and forward, but initially I did find the bass a bit underwhelming. However, I soon realised that the placement of the amp makes a big difference to the low end. My initial listening session was with the amp on a high stool, so I could adjust the settings easily, but after placing the amp on the floor, or funnily enough, on my desk, the low end improved significantly. Something to note when you're deciding where to display the amp. The SRT pickup in the A1R guitar supplied for this review sounded a bit bright with everything at noon, but the treble control worked well for taming this without it getting too dull. What made a really big difference to the sound was the tone select stroke blend feature. Bringing in some of the digitally modelled condenser mic made the pickup sound much more lifelike and tamed both the hardness of the top end and some nasally mids. I was really surprised by how much of a difference it made. Running through the different tone select settings, I found the condenser to be the most pleasing. The dynamic setting seemed less three-dimensional in comparison, whereas the tube setting was a bit too warm for my liking. I skipped over the nylon setting as I was using steel strings, and I was pleased to discover when reading the manual that the flat setting allows you to use the tone blend as a gain control, so if you have a low output pickup you can bring it up in volume. Although in that situation I assume you can't use the mic modular settings as well, which is a shame as they really improve the sound. As well as the Yamaha A1R, I also tried the THR30 with my own guitar, a Collings fitted with a K&K Pure Mini pickup. And the tone select option worked really well with this to give me a great plugged in tone that seemed to bring back some air and sparkle that the pickup itself was missing. Admittedly, I did find that blend settings of over 50% started to sound quite distant, but up to that point I was very impressed with how the tone select took the pickup sound and enhanced it. For this next section of the review, I will be running through the digital microphone models available in the tone select section of the amp, starting with the blend at 0, then moving to 50% and then to 100%. Moving on to the effects section, I found the chorus to be too watery even at low settings, and I'll admit to being disappointed by the delay and reverb settings, both of which seemed, for want of a better word, plinky with a brittle top end. At low settings I thought they were fine for a little ambience, but anything above that seemed too tinny for me. But as regular viewers will know, I am fussy about reverb and effects in acoustic amps, and my personal preference is always that less is more. So feel free to take my comments with a pinch of salt. Your own thoughts on the reverb and chorus might quite validly be different to mine. And as you'll hear in a moment, mine changed later as well. Plugging in a vocal mic, I found the vocal tone a bit cloudy. There's no EQ on the amp itself, and I couldn't find a reverb setting that was flattering without sounding over the top. That was until I installed the remote app on my computer and discovered an EQ section including a high pass filter, which allowed me to dial in a much better vocal sound. I also discovered that there are more controls for the guitar effects section, including a tone control for the reverb, which dealt with the high-end issues I was hearing previously. The remote app itself was easy to use and ran with no issues on my nearly 6-year-old MacBook, connecting to the amp via Bluetooth and allowing me to adjust and save settings with more control than on the amp itself. I'm no doubt revealing myself to be of a certain age here, but I will admit that I didn't consider downloading the app at first, as I just assumed it would be too complicated or fiddly to use. But actually it was very simple and gave me a welcome extra layer of control over the THR amp. That the remote app added that extra layer brings me nicely to my next point, which is who and what situation is this amp for? At £570, it's not a cheap item, and there are amps at this price which would hold their own in a gigging situation. The THR, although quite loud for its size, is not going to drown out a noisy crowd or project to the back of a concert hall, and the fact that some of the, in my opinion, key features are best accessed through the app make it somewhat impractical for gigging. It would work to give you some sound reinforcement in an otherwise unplugged situation with louder instruments, and I think it would be fine as a small busking unit in a place where you didn't need to cover a wide area, but really it's an amp for home practice or possibly low-level jamming with friends. The use of loopers and effects pedals with acoustic guitar has increased a lot in recent years, and I can see the appeal of having a smaller, more attractive amp at home to use for these kind of setups. And if you're playing along with recordings or jam tracks, the fact that the THR works so well as a standalone Bluetooth speaker for music playback, whilst also handling your guitar and vocals, is attractive too. I suppose you could define it as a lifestyle amplifier. It's not really got the power behind it for professional situations, but it does have a distinctive style, a plethora of useful features and connectivity options, and I think that if you have the disposable income for a luxury amp, you could find yourself turning to it often throughout the day, not just for guitar practice, but for use as a recording interface and a music playback speaker as well. My lasting impression of the THR30IIA is that it's a fun and versatile little amp for using at home or out and about at social events. Music sounds great through it via Bluetooth. There's a good amount of EQ processing power for guitar and vocals, particularly if you install the remote app, and the convenience of battery power and wireless compatibility with the optional Line 6 G10T transmitter make it the sort of amp you can just fire up quickly without too much faff whenever you feel the inspiration strike. I hope you've enjoyed this video from Acoustic Review. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon to be kept up to date when we post new videos, and I look forward to seeing you next time.